Good evening. I'm Elliot Sobel. Date of birth, 8/23/59. I would love to play poker with the radiology staff at NYU. These frontline clinicians who did my initial diagnosis are smart and dedicated and truly skilled, but they do not have poker faces. I know they're trying not to give away the drama that's unfolding, but when they perform that first ultrasound and they see something that's unmistakably, undeniably bad, you can't miss the look on their faces or how their actions speak. As was the case with my radiologist, who compassionately put her hand on my shoulder and said, "It's going to be all right." This happened to me in mid-December of last year after I found a mass on my neck, and my wife and I had to start planning the next few months by a calendar that neither of us could really fathom. It was also the matter of communicating this disturbing news to friends and family, which I did via email, and I'll read you some selections. The story starts a few weeks into January at my diagnosis. Email of week 5. It's mid-January. I'm at my diagnosis. I haven't started treatments yet. Dear all, Beth and I just got back to Hillsdale from New York City after meeting with the NYU surgeon and oncologist today. We had a late lunch in Manhattan's Moynihan Station, which is a remarkably European reinvention of the old Penn, and boarded a very crowded Amtrak back to Hudson. My MRI confirmed that the cancer is in the back of my throat and in some lymph nodes in my neck. The NYU team recommended radiation and chemotherapy for about 6 weeks, but fortunately no surgery. They're very positive about an outcome and a cure, and they encouraged me to get a second opinion, which I will do at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Email of week 6. It's late January, post-diagnosis. Dear all, I spent pretty much the whole day yesterday meeting with the doctors at Memorial and NYU to hear more about my options for treatment. I learned there are standards for treatment that have been around for decades, but there are also clinical trials that are available. As a retired engineer, it comforted me to hear the scientific units that were involved. For instance, radiation is measured in joules per kilogram, and chemotherapy in milligrams per meter squared. But it made me wonder, how do they measure how many meters squared I am? Does it have to be really accurate? Does it matter that I've got a very thick skin from being in the financial industry for 20 years? Beth and I are reviewing my options, trying to find the right balance between getting cured and minimizing the misery of the side effects. We'll let you know our decision in a few days and then let the games begin. Email of week 8. It's early February. I still haven't started treatment yet. Dear all, Beth and I took the Manhattan Crosstown bus from the Upper West Side to Memorial this morning to sign the papers admitting me to a very promising clinical trial. I also got another MRI, which used to be a special occasion and was quite anxiety-inducing, but now for me is more like a trip to the drugstore. This particular trial is a bet that 15 days of radiation can do the same job as 35 days. The win in this trial, and it's a big win, is the reduction in side effects. I was told today, though, regardless, that most likely my sense of taste will be disrupted, to which Beth responded, not missing a beat, "That shouldn't be a big deal. He loves foods that taste strange." Email of week 10. It's mid-February. Dear all, last week I spent a few days at Memorial, mostly in tests with the dietitian, the audiologist, and the swallowing therapist. I'm not too excited about this side effects wheel of fortune, but I'm hoping that the degree will be diminished because of the 15-day length of the trial. My speech, hearing, and swallowing tests showed normal function, other than perhaps a slightly exaggerated New York accent. It was such a relief to hear the word normal occasionally during my visits this week, since all I've been getting is curable, and normal is much better than curable. Treatments, both chemo and radiation, start next week. Email of week 11. It's now early March. I've completed 3 of 15 radiations and 1 chemo cycle. Dear all, treatments have started, and the side effects have started to show up in small ways. I'm not always hungry, which is very unusual if you know me. I'm a little moody, and now I have a tan on my neck. I've repeated my name and birth date dozens of times. Beth has been a great companion and a patient advocate in more than one sense of the word. We've been walking to the hospital, if the weather is good, and taking the bus home to the west side. In Central Park, the witch hazel, the hellebore, and the snowdrops are all blooming. I'm getting to know the Upper East Side and its economic strata. The other day on 80th Street between Park and 5th, I saw some very fancy folks with their little dogs and their fancy little collars, as well as 3 of the most gorgeously coiffed, perfectly proportioned golden retrievers that were apparently on their way to a photo shoot at Ralph Lauren. Email of week 13. It's mid-March. 9 of 15 radiation treatments completed. Dear all, in spite of the fact that it's been sunny and beautiful, the cold weather has made the walks through Central Park to Memorial a little less charming. Although this week was heavy with radiation appointments, MRIs, and PET scans, if all continues to go well, I'm halfway done. So wish me luck on my trial assessment. Email of week 14. It's mid-March. I've completed 14 of 15 of my radiations. Dear all, that was some snowstorm we had. Beth and I drove from Manhattan to rescue our Hillsdale house from the power failure and the 2 feet of snow. We were successful, and with our mission completed, we turned around and we were back in the city by early evening. However, for as well as our house rescue had gone, unfortunately, my progress hasn't followed the same playbook. Most of the treatment so far has been very effective, but you need 100% to stay in the trial, and I didn't get that. There's a tumor that isn't responding. So the news is not good. I need 4 more weeks of radiation, which means 20 more crosstown round trips, 20 more cups of coffee in the cafe, 20 more good mornings to the sunny staff on the 4th floor, and 20 more fist bumps with my new pals in the radiation lounge. Side effects have become worse. I can't taste much, I've lost weight, and damage to my throat is limiting me more or less to eggs, yogurt, and oatmeal, which is a real gift to throat cancer patients. Email of week 15. It's late March. I'm on the new treatment plan. I've completed 19 of 35 of my radiations and 2 chemo cycles. Dear all, usually I find idiots FaceTiming in the waiting rooms to be the low point of my visit. But the other day in the chemo lounge, I was lucky enough to sit near an urban poet. He was an older guy in a wheelchair who was on his phone quietly joking with his friend Tony Cannoli that he was in for a few bags of poison. He then went on about his family hijinks in a perfectly cadenced and expletive-laden monologue that I could not stop listening to. It was a $75 theater seat, and it left me with a good story to tell, and it calmed me down as I prepared for my own bag of poison. Doctors remain happy with my progress. I still can't swallow well or taste much, but now they're steering the radiation away from my throat, so maybe I'll start to recover. Week 17. It's early April. 29 of 35 treatments completed and 2 chemo cycles. Dear all, last week my radiation buddy Nick had his last treatment. Nick and I had exchanged good mornings and a few words every day for a couple of weeks, even though his English was a little bit limited. How many more treatments we had was a popular topic, but we never really talked too much about where our cancers were or the natures. Although that became pretty obvious when we would pass each other on the way to the radiation room in our hospital gowns. Me without a shirt on and Nick without his pants. This week my daily treatments were brief, But somewhere between my many visits to Memorial and riding public transit, I got COVID. COVID on top of cancer. Fortunately, it was a mild case, and my last full week of treatments proceeded without a hitch. Dear all, this is the email of week 18, mid-April, last month. Almost 4 months since my initial cancer diagnosis, I have completed my treatment plan of 35 radiations, and not 2, but 3 chemo cycles. Doctors are happy with my results, and I'm looking forward to recovering strength, focus, and definitely my appetite. These emails I've been sharing have been through my lens. In this last note, however, I'm turning the narrative to Beth, my wife, my chemo companion, my menu manager, hugger, and partner. From Beth. I've only been a bystander to the journey Elliot's been on. This cancer thing is really hell on anyone that gets near it. It upends time and it bends daily realities. Well, the treatments have come to an end and we're moving into recovery. I've witnessed Elliot lose hair, weight, sense of taste, and sometimes his patience. But he's handled this with quiet grace and humor and a lot of courage. I'm happy and thankful we made it to together, still smiling and with love. And thanks to you, the audience, and the other storytellers for sharing and listening.